Commander had served the Empire for 40 years. She had fought in 12 wars across 6 star systems. She had seen entire planets burn and civilizations fall to dust. Nothing had ever made her afraid. Until now. She stood before the War Council in the Great Hall of the home world. The room was massive, built from black stone that seemed to swallow all light. 12 high commanders sat in a half-circle before her, their pale blue skin glowing faintly in the darkness. Their 4 eyes watched her without blinking. His hands trembled as she activated the holographic display behind her. Images flickered to life, showing the wreckage of what had once been the 3rd Imperial Fleet. Ships floated in pieces across the void. Escape pods drifted empty. Debris stretched for thousands of miles in every direction. "This happened 3 days ago," said. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt sick. 412 ships, 80,000 soldiers, all destroyed in a single night. High Commander Hose leaned forward. He was the oldest of the council, his skin darker than the others from centuries of service. "By what force? Which enemy dares to challenge us?" Swallowed hard. "Not which enemy, High Commander, which man?" Silence fell over the council. The word hung in the air like poison. "One man," continued, "one human." Hose slammed his fist on the table. The sound echoed through the great hall like thunder. "Impossible. Humans are vermin. They are weak. They break easily. One human cannot destroy an entire fleet." "This one can," said. She pressed a button and a new image appeared on the display. It showed a human male, perhaps 40 years old. His hair was at the edges. His face was hard, lined with scars and years of pain. But it was his eyes that made blood run cold. They were dark and empty, like looking into the void itself. "His name is Cole Harper," she said. Several commanders shifted in their seats. Noticed that some of them looked away from the image, as if the picture itself might harm them. "I have heard this name before," said Commander, the youngest member of the council. "The soldiers speak of him in whispers. They say he cannot be killed." "He can be killed," said. "He is human, he bleeds, he ages. He will die someday like all things die, but no one has managed to kill him yet, not in 15 years. She pressed another button, and the display showed a timeline of destruction. Planet after planet, fleet after fleet, all marked with the same symbol, a human handprint in red. 15 years ago, Cole Harper was a pilot in the human military, explained. He was stationed on Earth when we invaded. He fought in the first battle. His squadron was destroyed, but he survived. He escaped into the stars with a stolen ship and nothing else. And he has been causing trouble ever since, Hose growled. Not just trouble, High Commander. He has become something much worse. He has become a legend. Pulled up reports from across the galaxy, messages from frightened commanders, recordings from soldiers who had faced Cole Harper and lived to tell about it. There were not many of those. They call him she said. They believe he is a spirit of vengeance that cannot be stopped by mortal weapons. The beings of Prime refuse to say his name out loud. They think speaking it will bring his attention to them. Superstition, Hose spat, foolishness. Perhaps, agreed. But superstition born from truth. Cole Harper has destroyed over 2,000 of our ships in 15 years. He has freed human slaves from 63 colonies. He has killed 4 high-ranking officers, including Admiral Al, who was considered the greatest warrior of his generation. The council was silent again. Al had been a hero to the people. His death had been reported as an accident. Now they knew the truth. How does one man do this? I asked. Her voice was quiet, almost afraid. What makes this human different from the others? Had asked herself the same question many times. She had studied Cole Harper for years, trying to understand him, trying to find his weakness. Humans are not like us, she said finally. When we are hurt, we retreat. We preserve ourselves for future battles. When humans are hurt, they become angry. They fight harder. Pain does not stop them. It makes them stronger. She paused, looking at the image of Cole Harper on the display. But this human is different even among his own kind. Most humans fight for something, for their families, for their freedom, for their future. Cole Harper has lost all of those things. His wife was killed in the invasion. His daughter was killed. His home was destroyed. He has nothing left to lose. Hose nodded slowly. A creature with nothing to lose is dangerous. More than dangerous, said. He is impossible to control. We cannot threaten him because he does not fear death. We cannot bribe him because he wants nothing except our destruction. We cannot reason with him because he does not listen to words. Then we will kill him, Hose said. Send our best hunters, send the silencer if you must, but end this threat. Bowed her head. Yes, High Commander, but I must warn you, others have tried. The silencer is our greatest weapon, but Cole Harper has survived every trap, every ambush, every attack we have sent against him. He seems to know what we will do before we do it. How is that possible? Looked up at the council. For the first time, she let them see the fear in her eyes. Because he was once like us, she said. He was a soldier. He knows how we think. He knows our tactics, our strategies, our weaknesses, and he has spent 15 years learning more. He studies us the way we study prey. He knows us better than we know ourselves. The great hall was silent except for the soft hum of the holographic display. Cole Harper's face still floated in the air, watching them with those empty eyes. There is one more thing you should know, said. Our intelligence has intercepted human communications from across the galaxy. The slaves we keep on our mining colonies, the prisoners in our camps, the scattered survivors hiding in the dark corners of space. They all speak of Cole Harper. What do they say? I asked. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. They say he is coming. They say he will free them all. They say he will not stop until every is dead or driven from the stars. She looked at the council, at the most powerful beings in the Empire, and she saw something she had never seen before. She saw doubt. She saw fear. They believe in him, she said. And belief, High Commanders, is the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The meeting ended without resolution. Commanders argued about what to do, but no one had answers. How do you fight a legend? How do you kill a man who has already lost everything? As left the great hall, she stopped to look at the stars through the massive windows. Somewhere out there, Cole Harper was moving through the darkness, planning his next attack, getting closer. She thought about the soldiers she had sent to their deaths against him. Good soldiers, loyal soldiers. They had followed orders without question, and they had died without understanding why. Cole Harper was just one man, one aging, wounded, broken human. By every measure, he should be nothing, a footnote in the history of the Empire's conquest. But he was not nothing. He was everything the Empire feared. Because if one man could do this much damage, what would happen when humans stopped fighting alone? What would happen when they united? Did not want to think about that. She turned away from the stars and walked into the darkness of the corridor. Behind her, through the window, a small ship moved silently between the stars. Its pilot did not sleep. He was already planning his next move. Cole Harper was coming. And the Empire would tremble. Lucy Grant had never seen Earth. She was born in a metal box on a world that was not her own, and she had spent every day of her 22 years as a slave. Her mother had told her stories about the home world, stories about blue oceans that stretched further than the eye could see, stories about green forests filled with birds and animals, stories about cities made of glass that touched the clouds. Lucy had tried to imagine these things, but they seemed impossible. Her world was stone and black metal. Her sky was the ceiling of the mining compound. Her ocean was the bucket of dirty water she used to scrub the floors. But she held onto those stories like precious treasures. They were all she had of a world she would never know. The mining colony of Tarsis 7 was a harsh place. The air was thin and cold. The ground was covered in red dust that got into everything. The masters worked the human slaves in the deep mines, digging out rare metals that powered their starships. Many slaves did not survive their first year. Lucy had survived 22. She was stronger than she looked. Her body was thin from years of small meals, but her muscles were hard from constant work. Her dark hair was cut short because long hair got caught in the machines. Her hands were rough, but her eyes were still bright. Her spirit was not broken. Every night after the work was done, the slaves would gather in their quarters. The rooms were small and crowded, with metal bunks stacked 3 high against the walls. There was no privacy, no comfort, no hope, but there were stories. Old was the best storyteller. He was nearly 60, which was ancient for a slave. His body was bent and his hands shook, but his mind was still sharp. He had been captured on Earth during the invasion, and he remembered what life was like before. But his best stories were not about the old days. His best stories were about Cole Harper. "He was born in a place called Nebraska," said one night, his voice low so the guards would not hear. "It was flat land, they say, open sky as far as you could see. He grew up on a farm, working the earth with his hands. He learned to fly when he was just a boy, taking up old planes that should have fallen apart." The other slaves gathered close, their tired faces lit by the dim glow of the emergency lights. Lucy sat near the front, her knees pulled up to her chest. "When they came, he was a pilot in the Air Force," continued. "He fought in the first battle. They say he shot down 12 enemy ships before his own plane was hit. He crashed, but he survived. He always survives." "How do you know these things are true?" asked a young man named Danny. He was new to the colony, only a few months into his sentence. His doubt was understandable. Hope was dangerous here. Smiled, showing teeth that were broken and yellow. "Because they are afraid of him, boy. You've seen it yourself. Have you noticed how the guards get nervous when human ships are spotted in the sector? Have you noticed how they double the patrols whenever there's news of an attack nearby?" Danny said nothing. He had noticed. "Cole Harper has been fighting for 15 years, said. Alone. No army, no fleet, no backup, just one man against an empire, and he's still alive. More than alive, he's winning." Lucy closed her eyes and tried to imagine it. One man in a ship, flying through the darkness between stars, fighting enemies that outnumbered him 1,000 to 1, never stopping, never giving up. "Why does he do it?" she asked. "What keeps him going?" Was quiet for a moment. The other slaves waited, knowing that this was the heart of the story. "They killed his family," said finally. "His wife, his little girl. She was only 7 years old. He held her hand when the bombs fell. He promised her everything would be okay. But it wasn't okay. She died in his arms." Lucy felt tears sting her eyes. She thought of her own mother, who had died 3 years ago from sickness that they refused to treat. She thought of all the children in the colony who would never grow up free. "He fights for her," said. "For the daughter he couldn't save. Every he kills, every slave he frees, every battle he wins is for her. He's trying to make up for a promise he couldn't keep." The room was silent. Even Danny had no more doubts. "Do you think he'll come here?" someone asked from the back. "Do you think he'll free us?" Looked around at the faces of his people. Thin, tired faces, broken faces, but also hopeful faces. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Tarsi 7 is far from the main shipping lanes. We're not a high-value target. There are bigger colonies, bigger prisons, bigger enemies for him to fight." The hope in the room dimmed. But added, "Cole Harper doesn't think like a general. He doesn't care about strategy or value. He cares about people. If he hears that humans are suffering here, he'll come. It might take years. It might never happen. But I believe in him." Lucy held onto those words as she lay in her bunk that night. She stared at the metal ceiling above her and imagined the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, a man was fighting for people he had never met. Somewhere out there, there was hope. She fell asleep dreaming of blue skies. 3 weeks later, the alarms woke her. Lucy had heard alarms before. They usually meant an accident in the mines or a failed inspection. But this alarm was different. It was louder, more urgent, and the guards were running. She sat up in her bunk and looked around. The other slaves were awake too, confusion and fear on their faces. Through the small window in the door, she could see soldiers rushing past. They were carrying weapons. "What's happening?" Danny asked. Lucy didn't know, but she felt something strange in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She pushed through the crowd to the window and pressed her face against the cold glass. The corridor outside was chaos. Guards shouted orders at each other. Officers ran toward the command center, and in the distance she could hear something else. Explosions. "It's him," Old whispered. He had pushed his way to the front of the crowd, his old body trembling, but his eyes were bright. "It's Cole Harper, he's here." The other slaves began to murmur. Some were excited, some were afraid. They had heard the stories, but stories were one thing, reality was another. Lucy watched through the window as a commander ran past. He was shouting into his communicator, his voice high with panic. "Evacuate immediately. All personnel to the escape ships. He's breached the outer defenses." More explosions shook the building. The lights flickered. Someone screamed. But Lucy didn't scream. She watched. She waited. She had dreamed of this moment her entire life. The moment when the stories became real. The moment when hope stopped being a distant dream and became something she could see with her own eyes. The door to their quarters suddenly burst open. A guard stood in the doorway, his weapon raised, but he wasn't looking at the slaves. He was looking behind him at something coming down the corridor. "Stay back," the guard shouted. "I'll kill them all." Lucy couldn't see what he was shouting at, but she heard a voice, a human voice, calm and cold. "No, you won't." There was a flash of light. The guard fell, and then, for the first time in her life, Lucy saw him. Cole Harper stepped over the body of the guard and into the room. He was taller than she expected. His hair was, and his face was lined with scars and years of hard living. He held a weapon in each hand, and his clothes were scorched from battle. But it was his eyes that struck her the most. They were dark and tired and full of pain, but they were also determined, unbreakable. He looked at the crowd of slaves and spoke in a voice that carried despite being quiet. "You're free now, follow me." No one moved. They were too shocked, too afraid to believe. Lucy stepped forward. She didn't know where her courage came from. Maybe from her mother, maybe from the stories, maybe from something deep inside her that had been waiting for this moment. "Is it true?" she asked. "Are you really Cole Harper?" The man looked at her. For a moment something flickered in his eyes, something almost human. "Yes," he said. Lucy nodded. She turned to the others. "We're leaving," she said, "all of us, right now." And for the first time in 22 years, Lucy Grant walked toward freedom. The battle for Tarsius 7 lasted less than an hour. Cole Harper moved through the compound like a storm, leaving destruction in his path. The guards fought back, but they were disorganized, panicked. They had trained for many threats, but not for this. Not for him. Lucy followed close behind with the other freed slaves. There were 63 of them, ranging from children as young as 8 to old who could barely walk. They stayed together, moving through corridors filled with smoke and fallen bodies. Cole led them to the landing bay where his ship waited. It was smaller than Lucy expected, battered and patched in a dozen places. It didn't look like the vessel of a legendary warrior. It looked like something that should have fallen apart years ago. But it flew, and it carried them away from Tarsius 7, away from the only world Lucy had ever known. The journey to safety took 3 days. Cole had a hidden base on an asteroid in a dead system, far from any shipping lanes. It was cold and dark, but it was free. Most of the freed slaves stayed there. There were supplies, basic shelters, and connections to a network of other human survivors. Old took charge of organizing them. his old skills as a leader returning despite his age. But Lucy did not stay with the others. She found herself drawn to Cole Harper, wanting to understand the man behind the legend. On the second night, she found him alone in the cargo bay of his ship. He was sitting on a metal crate, cleaning his weapons in the dim light. His movements were slow and careful, the routine of someone who had done this thousands of times. She sat down across from him without asking permission. He glanced up at her but said nothing. "Thank you," Lucy said, "for saving us." Cole nodded once but didn't speak. His attention returned to his weapons. Lucy watched him for a moment. Up close, the wear on his body was clear. Old scars crossed his arms and hands. His joints moved stiffly, the result of injuries that had never healed properly. He was not a young man anymore, and the years of fighting had taken their toll. "Why do you do it?" she asked. The question hung in the air. Cole's hand stopped moving. "Do what?" he asked. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it often. "All of this, the fighting, the rescues, you've been doing this for 15 years. Why don't you stop, find somewhere safe and rest?" Cole was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. "I had a daughter once." Lucy felt her heart tighten. She knew the story, but hearing it from his own mouth was different. "Her name was Emma," Cole continued. "She was 7 years old. She had her mother's eyes and her grandmother's smile. She loved butterflies. She used to chase them in the garden behind our house." He set down his weapon and stared at the floor. "When they came, we didn't know what was happening at first. The news was confused. There were explosions in the distance, but we thought it was military exercises. By the time we understood the truth, it was too late." Lucy didn't speak. She barely breathed. "My wife was killed in the first wave of attacks. A bomb hit our neighborhood. I found Emma in the ruins of our house, crying, calling for her mother. I picked her up and ran. I promised her that everything would be okay. I promised her that I would keep her safe." His hands clenched into fists. "We made it to an evacuation point. There were hundreds of people there, all trying to get on the ships. They found us. They opened fire on the crowd. People fell all around me. I held Emma close and tried to shield her with my body." He paused. His voice cracked slightly and he cleared his throat. "It wasn't enough. She was hit. I felt her go still in my arms. I looked down and saw her eyes open but empty. She was gone." Lucy felt tears streaming down her face. She thought of her own mother, of the pain of losing someone you love. "I buried her there in a park near the evacuation point," Cole said. "I dug the grave with my bare hands because there was no time for anything else. Then I stole a ship and flew into the sky. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I couldn't stay on Earth, not without her." He looked up at Lucy, and she saw the depth of his pain for the first time. Behind the legend, behind the fearsome reputation, was a father who had failed to protect his child. "I started fighting because I didn't know what else to do," he said. "The anger was all I had left. Every I killed was revenge for Emma. Every attack was my way of screaming into the void." "And now?" Lucy asked quietly. Cole considered the question. "Now it's different. The anger is still there, but it's not the only thing driving me anymore. I can't save Emma. I can't bring her back, but I can save other people's children. I can free other people's families. Every slave I rescue is a chance to do what I couldn't do for her." He picked up his weapon again and resumed cleaning it. "I don't know if it helps," he admitted. "I don't know if anything I do makes a difference in the end. The Empire is vast and powerful. I'm just one man. But as long as I'm alive, I'll keep fighting. Because if I stop, then Emma's death means nothing. If I stop, then they win." Lucy was silent for a long time, processing what she had heard. The weight of his story was heavy, but it also made sense in a way she hadn't expected. Cole Harper wasn't a legend or a myth. He was a broken man who had found a purpose in his pain. "Can I help?" she asked finally. Cole looked at her with surprise. Help. I've been a slave my whole life, Lucy said. I don't know how to fight, I don't know how to fly a ship, but I can learn. I want to do something, I want to fight back. Cole studied her for a moment. His expression was unreadable. It's not a life I would wish on anyone, he said. It's lonely, it's dangerous. You'll see things that will haunt you forever. You'll lose people you care about. And in the end, you might die without ever knowing if you made a difference. I know, Lucy said. I've already seen terrible things. I've already lost people I care about. At least this way I can choose my own path. At least this way I can fight. Something shifted in Cole's eyes. For the first time since she had met him, she saw the faintest hint of a smile. You remind me of someone, he said. Who? My wife. She had the same fire in her eyes, the same stubbornness. He shook his head. She would have liked you. Lucy didn't know what to say. The compliment caught her off guard. Cole stood up and put his weapons back in their cases. I can't promise you anything, he said. I can't promise you victory or safety or a happy ending, but if you want to learn, I'll teach you. If you want to fight, I'll give you the chance. He extended his hand. It was rough and the hand of a man who had been through hell and kept going. Lucy took it without hesitation. When do we start? She asked. Cole's expression hardened with purpose. Now, there's no time to waste. The Empire won't stop and neither can we. As they walked out of the cargo bay together, Lucy felt something she hadn't felt since she was a child listening to her mother's stories about Earth. She felt hope, but more than that she felt ready. Ready to fight, ready to learn, ready to become something more than a slave. The war was far from over, but for the first time, Lucy Grant was not just waiting for rescue. She was joining the battle. 6 months had passed since the liberation of Tarsis 7, and Lucy was no longer the frightened slave she had been. Under Cole's teaching, she had learned to shoot, to fly, to fight. Her body had grown stronger, her mind had grown sharper, but most importantly, her understanding of the war had grown deeper. She had come to realize that Cole's greatest weakness was also his greatest strength. He worked alone. This made him fast, unpredictable, and impossible to track, but it also limited what he could achieve. One man could free a colony, but one man could not liberate a galaxy. Lucy saw what Cole could not see, or perhaps what he refused to see. The fight needed to grow beyond a single warrior. It needed to become a movement. She started small. On their travels between systems, she would reach out to other human survivors, hidden colonies, underground networks, escaped slaves like herself who had found freedom but no purpose. She listened to their stories. She learned their skills, and she connected them to each other. Within 3 months, she had built a network that stretched across 12 star systems. It was not an army. It was not even organized, but it was a start. Cole was skeptical at first. These people will get themselves killed, he said one night as they flew through deep space. They don't have training, they don't have experience, that will crush them. Maybe, Lucy admitted, but they want to fight. They need to fight. And if we guide them, if we give them purpose, they can accomplish things that even you can't do alone. Cole was silent for a long time. Lucy could see him thinking, wrestling with old habits and new possibilities. I've been alone for 15 years, he said finally. I trust myself, I don't trust others. I know, Lucy said, but you trusted me. He looked at her and she saw the conflict in his eyes, the fear of depending on anyone else, the pain of everyone he had lost. But she also saw something new, a spark of possibility. Fine, he said at last, show me what you've built. The first meeting took place on an abandoned space station in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Lucy had chosen it carefully, far from any shipping lanes, shielded from most sensors, with multiple escape routes in case of trouble. 30 people gathered in the main hall of the station. They came from different backgrounds and different worlds, but they all had one thing in common. They were human, and they were ready to fight. Cole stood at the back of the room, watching but not speaking. Lucy had asked him to let her lead the meeting. He had agreed, though she could tell it made him uncomfortable. "Thank you all for coming," Lucy began. Her voice was steady despite her nerves. "I know this is dangerous. I know you all have reasons to stay hidden, to stay safe. But I also know that hiding is not living, and I know that we can do more together than we can do apart." She introduced the key members of their growing network. There was Price, a former soldier who had been fighting a one-man guerrilla war on 3 different worlds. He was tall and broad, with a face that looked like it was carved from stone. He had lost his entire unit in the first year of the invasion and had been making the Empire pay ever since. There was Tors, a small woman with quick eyes and quicker fingers. She had been a communications specialist before the war, and she had spent the last decade sabotaging communication systems. She could crack any code and bypass any security. She was invaluable. And there was an old man named Henry Cole, no relation to Cole Harper despite the shared name. He had been a professor of history on Earth, and he had taken it upon himself to preserve humanity's stories. He carried a field with recordings, songs, poems, histories, memories of a world that no longer existed. He was the keeper of who they were. "We call ourselves the Remnant," Lucy said, "because that's what we are, the remnant of humanity, the survivors, the ones who refuse to die." She looked around the room at the faces watching her. Some were hopeful, some were afraid, all were determined. "Cole Harper has been fighting alone for 15 years, she continued. "He has done more damage to the Empire than anyone thought possible, but even he cannot win this war by himself. We need to work together. We need to coordinate our attacks. We need to become something bigger than any one person." Price stepped forward. "What's the plan? What do you need from us?" Lucy pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked strongholds. Blue dots marked human settlements. Yellow dots marked places where resistance was already active. "We start by connecting," she said. "Every cell, every group, every lone fighter. We share information. We coordinate strikes. We make the Empire fight on 100 fronts at once instead of one." "That's ambitious," said, but she was smiling. "I like ambitious." Henry Cole nodded slowly. "The Empire is vast, but it is also spread thin. They conquered many worlds and they must hold all of them. If we attack everywhere at once, they cannot respond to everything." "Exactly," Lucy said. "We don't need to defeat them in one big battle. We just need to make ruling us too expensive. We need to be everywhere. We need to be unpredictable. We need to make them afraid to sleep." From the back of the room, Cole Harper finally spoke. "There's something you should all know," he said. His voice was quiet, but it commanded immediate attention. "The Empire has sent someone after me, a hunter they call the Silencer. It's their best killer, their most dangerous weapon." The room went cold. Even Price, who feared nothing, shifted uncomfortably. "The Silencer has never failed," Cole continued. "Every target it has been sent after has died, every single one. It will find me eventually. It will find all of you eventually. That's the price of this fight." "Are you trying to scare us away?" asked. Cole shook his head. "No, I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're getting into. This isn't a game. This isn't a story. People will die, maybe all of us, maybe soon." He walked forward until he stood beside Lucy. "But you're right about one thing," he said, looking at her. "I've been fighting alone for too long. Maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe together we have a chance." The room was silent. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath. Then Price slammed his fist against his chest in an old Earth military salute. "For humanity," he said. Tors followed, "For humanity." One by one, everyone in the room repeated the gesture. The words echoed off the metal walls. "For humanity." Cole Harper looked at the faces around him. For 15 years, he had trusted no one. He had relied only on himself. He had carried the weight of the war on his shoulders alone. Now, for the first time, he was not alone. Lucy saw the change in his expression. It was small, almost invisible, but she knew him well enough now to recognize it. Hoping. The meeting lasted for hours. Plans were made. Assignments were given. Communication protocols were established. By the time everyone left, the remnant was no longer just an idea. It was real. As the station emptied, Lucy found Cole standing at a window, staring out at the stars. "Thank you," she said. He didn't turn around. For what? For trusting us, for believing in this. Cole was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than usual. "My daughter would have been your age now if she had lived. She would have been strong like you, brave like you." Lucy felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," Cole said. He turned to face her. "Be ready, the silencer is coming, and when it comes, we'll face it together." He walked past her toward the ship, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. Lucy looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, the silencer was hunting them. Somewhere out there, the Empire was plotting their destruction. But somewhere out there, humanity was rising. And they were ready. The final confrontation happened where it always had to happen, on Earth. Cole had avoided his home world for 15 years. The pain of returning was too great, the memories too sharp, but the silencer had forced his hand. The Empire's greatest hunter had attacked 3 remnant bases in a single week. 50 people were dead. The network was in chaos, and the silencer had left a message carved into the wall of the last base. "Come home, Cole Harper. Come home and die." It was a trap. Everyone knew it was a trap. But Cole also knew that if he didn't answer the challenge, the silencer would continue killing until there was no one left. "I have to go," he told Lucy on the night before he left. "Then I'm coming with you," she said. "No, this is my fight, my ending." Lucy grabbed his arm. "You said we would face this together. You promised." Cole looked at her for a long moment. He saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire that had drawn him to her from the beginning, the same fire his wife had possessed, the same fire his daughter might have had if she had lived long enough. "Together," he said finally, "but you stay back, you stay safe. If I fall, you continue the fight, you lead the remnant, you finish what we started." Lucy nodded, though they both knew she would not stay back. She would not stay safe. That was not who she was. Earth was a shadow of its former self. That had stripped the planet of its resources. The oceans were polluted and dead. The forests were gone. The cities were ruins. Cole landed his ship in what had once been the American Midwest. Cornfields had once stretched to the horizon here. Now there was only dust and broken machinery. The silencer was waiting for him. It stood in the center of a crater that had once been a town. It was humanoid but not human, a being of metal and flesh woven together by technology far beyond anything humans had created. Its face was a blank mask with no features except for 2 burning red eyes. "Cole Harper," the silencer said. Its voice was mechanical, cold. "The famous human, the legend, the nightmare of the Empire." Cole walked toward it, his weapons at his sides. "You killed my people," he said. "I killed insects," the silencer replied. "Vermin, pests to be exterminated, just as I will exterminate you. Many have tried. Many were weak." The silencer's eyes glowed brighter. "I am not weak. I am the end of all things. I am death given form." It attacked without warning. One moment it was standing still, the next it was in front of Cole, striking with speed that should have been impossible. Cole barely managed to block the first blow. The impact sent shockwaves up his arm. The fight was brutal and one-sided. The silencer was faster, stronger, and more advanced than any enemy Cole had ever faced. Its metal body absorbed his weapon's fire. Its blows cracked his armor and broke his bones. Within minutes, Cole was bleeding from a dozen wounds. He fought back with everything he had. 15 years of experience, 15 years of rage, but it was not enough. The silencer caught him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Your legend ends here," it said. "Your hope dies with you. When you are gone, your precious remnant will scatter and fall. Humanity will return to its proper place, beneath our feet." Cole struggled to breathe. His vision was darkening, his strength was fading. But then the silencer did something unexpected. It began to talk about Emma. "Your daughter," it said, "the girl you could not save. I have accessed the records of the invasion. I know how she died, crying, afraid, calling for her father, and you could not help her. You were too weak, too slow, too human." The words cut deeper than any blade. Cole felt the old pain rising in his chest, the grief he had carried for 15 years. But something else rose with it. He had expected the silencer to taunt him. He had expected the pain, and he had prepared for it. The grief was not his weakness, it was his strength. He had held Emma as she died. He had buried her with his own hands. He had carried her memory across the galaxy, through 1,000 battles, through pain and loss and loneliness. She was part of him now. She gave him purpose. And no machine could understand that. Cole's hand found the knife at his belt. It was a small blade, almost worthless against the silencer's armor. But he had noticed something during the fight. A gap in the armor at the neck. A small weakness where the organic and mechanical parts joined together. He struck. The blade sank in. The silencer's grip loosened for a moment, just a moment as it processed the damage. Cole dropped to the ground and rolled away. He came up firing, his weapons targeting the gap in the armor. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3. The silencer stumbled. Its red eyes flickered. "Impossible," it said. "I am perfect. I am designed to be unbeatable." "You're designed to kill," Cole said, blood streaming down his face. "But you don't understand why we fight. You don't understand what drives us. And that's why you'll always lose." He attacked again. The silencer fought back, but something had changed. The certainty was gone from its movements. The confidence was shattered. Cole fought like a man possessed. Every blow was for Emma. Every strike was for his wife. Every attack was for every human who had suffered under the Empire's rule. The battle raged across the crater, tearing up the earth, shaking the ruins of the old town. Both combatants were damaged, weakened, pushed to their limits. In the end, Cole found himself on top of the silencer, his knife pressed against its throat. "Any last words?" he asked. The silencer's red eyes stared up at him. For the first time, there was something that might have been fear. "More will come," it said. "I am not the last. The Empire will never stop hunting you." "Let them come," Cole said. "I'll be waiting." He drove the knife home. The silencer died with a sound like breaking glass, its systems failing, its body going still. Cole stood over it, breathing hard, his body broken but his spirit undefeated. Lucy found him there an hour later. She had ignored his orders, of course. She had followed him down to the surface, watching from a distance, ready to help if she could. She ran to his side and helped him sit down on a piece of broken concrete. "You won," she said, her voice shaking with relief. "We won," he corrected. "This is just the beginning." He looked around at the ruined landscape. Somewhere nearby was the park where he had buried Emma 15 years ago. "I need to see her," he said. Lucy helped him walk. They found the grave beneath a dead tree, marked by a simple stone Cole had placed there on the worst day of his life. He knelt beside it, his hand pressing against the cold earth. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise." Lucy stood back, giving him space. "But I kept fighting," Cole continued. "I never stopped. And now there are others who will keep fighting after I'm gone. Humans are rising. We're not giving up. We're not surrendering." He was quiet for a moment. "I hope you can see it wherever you are. I hope you know that your father never forgot you, that everything I did was for you." He stayed there for a long time, just breathing, just being with his daughter one last time. When he finally stood up, there was peace in his eyes, not an end to the pain but an acceptance of it. "What now?" Lucy asked. Cole looked at her. "Now we go back, we rebuild, we keep fighting." "And the Empire?" He smiled, a rare sight on his weathered face. "The Empire is afraid," he said. "They sent their best against me, and their best is dead. The silencer was supposed to be invincible. Now every in the galaxy knows it wasn't." He put his arm around Lucy's shoulder and began walking toward the ship. "Legends are powerful things," he said. "The Empire built me into a monster to scare their own troops, but now that legend works for us. Every slave who hears that the silencer is dead will have hope. Every resistance cell will fight harder. Every enemy will think twice." As they reached the ship, Lucy helped him into the cockpit. He was wounded, exhausted, and older than he had ever felt. But he was alive. And across the galaxy, word was already spreading. The silencer was dead. Cole Harper had won. In the halls of the Empire, commanders received the news with trembling hands. They spoke his name in whispers, afraid to say it too loud. Cole Harper, the human fighter all aliens dread. The legend was no longer just a man. He was a symbol. And symbols, they were learning, could not be killed. On 100 worlds, humans looked up at the stars and dared to dream of freedom. The war was not over. But for the first time in a generation, humanity was winning.